we tried to account for things as much as we could, but what we basically saw was that if a game is selling on Steam and then comes to mobile, whether it's a paid game or a free game doesn't seem to meaningfully affect how many people end up playing it on mobile.
Butterscotch Ep571.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 571 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the weekly podcast for indie game developers. I'm Seth and I'm the games programmer.
I'm Adam, I'm the web programmer and stuff.
I'm Sam, and I'm afraid of large numbers.
And
571?
Pretty big.
It's a big one.
Every so often I actually hear you say it, and I'm like, that's too many episodes.
Getting big. We're gonna have a comma in that number pretty soon. But we are Butterscotch Shenanigans, and today is May 1st, 2020. Quick. Happy
best.
May Day. All right, so today we're going to talk a little bit about what we've been doing with How Many Dudes. We've been working on achievements, so we'll talk about that a little bit. And we want to talk about our mobile strategy in terms of pricing, because we've made some decisions and learned some things, and it turns out that the best mobile store is Steam, and we'll talk about that.
Interesting. Yeah.
The
So,
best mobile store is Steam.
Yeah, so quick How Many Dudes update for achievements and stuff like that. So last week we talked about how we're kind of like working on localization and all this other stuff. One of the big things we definitely have to do for launch is get achievements hooked into the game. So we spent quite a bit of time this past week getting all those things set up. So the general process that we go through for achievements is we kind of think about them mechanically first and getting them hooked up in the game. Because of course, if you have an achievement that says, defeat 1,000 of this or beat this level or whatever, the game code has to know about that. It has to hook into and have little things that send off the events or keep track of these stats or whatever it is, right? So we've gone through that process, and we made a bunch of changes to Ludokit, which is the tool that Adam's been building, over at ludokit.com, to get our achievements set up and managed. We got 43 of them fleshed out, hooked up, and set up in the game and everything this week. Probably do a bunch more because it's actually made, Ludokit has made it quite easy to do.
Pretty slick.
And so there's a bunch of challenges with achievements, because if you're only on one store, if you're just on Steam or something like that, then it's tedious to get them all set up, but it's doable, right?
And if you're doing it on Steam, that interface has not changed since we started.
It's just
no. So it's been unchanged for at least 10 years, but probably more than that.
If any Valve folks are listening to this podcast, maybe take a quick look at that.
Honestly, even one of my favorite things is we talk about a lot of the reason why we've been driven to make Ludokit in the first place is because really stupid, tiny things that are still in place from these companies take 30% of your money. So, Steve and Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure this was from this week. If you upload a JPEG, but with .jpg instead of .jpeg.
.jpeg chokes.
Okay, so vice versa. Then Steam's like, I don't know what the fuck this is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we have given you hundreds of thousands
tell you
of dollars,
that.
Steam.
It just says there's something wrong with your image, right? Or there's something
The best. Great.
corrupt or whatever.
Love it. Even though you're uploading a JPEG and it's asking for a JPEG. So this is the sort of nonsense.
And JPEG is a valid and correct extension for JPEG images, which unfortunately do have it's dumb that they could be either JPG or JPEG.
Yeah.
Sure.
And importantly,
But that's not hard.
the contents of the
it's fine.
file, the contents of the file are the same. So if you have an image that's a JPEG and you go to upload it on Steam, they'll be like, I don't know what the fuck this is. If you literally take the same file, just change the name of the file so that it ends in .jpg,
Then it will.
Steam is like,
upload it.
you got it, buddy.
Yeah.
I know what this is.
This is the sort of thing. It'll drive you insane when you're trying to set these up, right? And so,
Yeah.
and I think Adam mentioned before the podcast, probably next week, after this podcast goes live, we'll be inviting a few more people who are in the Ludokit Discord. If you have some achievements you're working on or something like that, we'll be inviting a few more people in to the service to give it a try.
Early access stuff.
So what Ludokit allows for then is essentially you set up all your achievements in there, and every achievement then Ludokit will tell you here's all the things that you need. If you're on Google Play, you need Google Play ID. Blah blah blah. You have an icon for the achievement, and what we have you do is basically just upload an icon that's big, so like a 10, as big as you can, we recommend like 1024, but we can take whatever because we're not crazy, right? So we take the images, and then we have our little image template editor thing, and so you can just like have one background for all of your achievements, and then if you're like, oh, I want to change my background image, just replace that one image, and all your fucking achievements, icons get updated. It cascades through, and then we have a little export button where you hit that, and then it'll send you a zip file that contains icons for all the different stores that you're on, formatted properly in all the different configurations you need. So like on Steam, you need like a grayscale one, and you need a colored one for complete, incomplete.
And it has to be a JPG without an extra E in there.
And it's got to be 256 by 256. Right? You don't have to fuck with any of that. Like, you just set everything up in Ludokit, you hit download, bam, you got all the images ready for moving into Steam.
Yep. There's just an icons folder. Inside of that is a folder per platform with the icons that
Innovation.
Wow.
Innovation. Yeah.
And then the other thing is, then for the game side of things is, like I was saying before, like the game needs to know about all the different achievements, right? And so how do you do that? Well, another file that comes with that export from Ludokit is a JSON file, which is it's an extremely common file format that any code editor or game engine,
even a
should
person
be able
could read
to
it, which
handle.
honestly is rare, for code shit.
So you just basically throw that JSON file somewhere into your game project. It's an easy place for you to load it up. So you
Slurp
boot
it up.
Boot up your game,
Yep.
parse that JSON file. You get all the data about all your achievements, and then you can hook that data into whatever you want to do. Right?
It
One
also
helpful-
includes the translations, right? So it's going to give you all your.
That's true. It comes with translated text. It's
I mean, assuming you get it translated.
yeah, we're not translating it.
Yeah,
but
Ludokit handles the middleman problem of, and it's what I'm wrapping up right now before I put out our call. Which, yes, as Sam said, it's next week as we're recording this, but it's basically once this podcast goes live. If achievements are something you're dealing with, hop into the Ludokit Discord, and you should see an announcement there being like, "Here's how you get early access."
Yeah, that's ludokit.com, LUDOKIT. Yeah, and we want feedback, because the thing is, like, so we're using this tool, and we're basically developing it to meet our needs as we run into problems. But we don't have the same problems as everybody else, and so we're trying to get more people in there to get feedback on what types of things they expect it to do, or things that are
basically for each thing, we're like, what do we definitely know that we need? We try to zoom out a few steps and be like, what do we think? If we expand that a tiny bit, like what's the minimum we can expand that we think will accommodate like the vast majority of use cases, or where even if they wouldn't, that people would be like, well, I don't like the opinions you've made here, like, or I have preferences for something else, but this is so convenient, I'll just deal with it.
Yeah.
Right. And as an example of that, with like the achievements manager, it has max character limits that are set to the minimum maxes, whatever, from all the stores, right? Yep. So if you are making a game that's only on Steam, then technically those limits like are very tight and like way tight, because Steam doesn't even have any limits for those. Like, you can make your stuff as long as you want, and so you might, as a person, you might be like, oh, like, but I want to have my bespoke 256 character name for all of my achievements or whatever, right? And just no. You don't need to be doing that. And so, but if that's like really important to you, then basically like Ludokit isn't for you, right? So basically trying to thread that needle all the time for all these features is like, a part of early access is to ask like, is it fair? Is it fair that I made these strongly opinionated,
the reason we do it, and to be clear, the reason we do stuff like that, and with the consolidation of these things into one like achievement manager platform, is because of the fact that you might start on Steam, but so many games move then to mobile or to Xbox or whatever else, and you have to really
do all your achievements.
Yeah, it's incredibly annoying. It's like you just happen to be like even one character over limit. Most people don't name their achievements crazy things. They usually are pretty freaking tight. Like, it's not a big deal. So yeah, you might be one character over the limit, and now you gotta rename it. You gotta get it retranslated if you did that,
and then re-upload it to the other platform.
It's just like, save yourself.
So it's basically, there's a lot of rakes just out there, out in the field of game dev.
We've stepped on all of them.
We've stepped on every single one of them.
Oh my God.
And we're like, what if we just set this thing up so that there aren't any rakes?
Yeah, what if stepping on a rake literally wasn't an option? And that may mean that some other stuff that technically is an option isn't anymore, right? But
it turns out it never was.
It just
didn't
matter,
realize it,
So the last bit of that is the the translation pipeline part of you being able to say, ooh, download for translation, get a nicely little bundled collection of files with documentation and all that kind of stuff that you can
The
then just
types of
hand
files
off
that translators expect.
that translators can use. Yeah, basically everything all ready to go, so you don't even have to know how it works. You don't have to know what you're looking at.
You just
Get
send
it
an email
all.
to someone and you're like, translate
Yeah,
this.
well,
And they're
even,
like, I got it.
even better, like as you're setting up each achievement, you can also add little notes for the translators for the name and the description of the achievement, so that if you're worried about something where you're like, I don't know if my translators will know what the hell I'm talking about with this, right? Then you can just
Gives it
annotate it
context.
in Ludokit, and then
And you always you should
come
err
through.
on the side of like, this looks obvious, but you don't know it's obvious once you cross the language barrier, you know? So you should err on the side of, and so so those notes fields are just baked in, always visible as you're editing stuff, because it's like, I guess with those opinions again, it was like, I could hide them and let you opt into seeing it, right?
But just knowing that it's there is important.
Yeah,
So that
because
needs to
I
be
want
there.
you to fill it out, you know, because you're going to get the best outcome if you do that, and so on. But
Yeah. So very excited with how this stuff is progressing. I'm excited to see kind of like in a couple of years just how expansive of a tool set there is, you know, in this thing, because the things that we currently have are like they're specific. So it's like, all right, so credits, you know, that's a very specific thing. It is a big problem. Most people won't realize they have that problem until they get to it, right? Or same with achievements, where like people are making a game, they're you know, especially like a newer developer, they're working on it for 3 years.
Yep.
And then, you know, it's approaching launch and they're like, yeah, I should probably get some achievements hooked up. And then it's just like, oh my God, what the hell is happening, right? And so right now, a lot of the problems that we're kind of addressing in Ludokit are problems that kind of sneak up on you that you didn't even realize you had.
and it's
Over
because
time-
it's for how many dudes, right? And like, so it's focused on the stuff that happens like as you're leading up to launch, because that's also where we are.
Yeah.
Right?
But our goal isn't to make it like just like purely a publishing helping product, because we also want to include other things in there along the way, of things like we're talking about of actually helping with the entire localization pipeline, or even
It's supposed to end up
you know,
being
patch notes
farm
or-
to table, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I
It's
think
like
of
if
it as
you-
basically like it's your game development and publishing last mile toolkit, right? Where it's like you still have to do.
you got to make the game.
You still got to make the game. You still got to write all of your marketing copy. You still got to do all of this stuff, right? But
But having it
that
all in one
last
place.
mile of being able to then get it disseminated where it's supposed to go to, it's because some of the stuff we also want to have is like a patch notes feature, right? For automating your patch notes, so that's all in one place.
And
Like,
potentially a way to, because like our own patch note system is part of our QA pipeline.
Yep.
Where essentially like we have automated patch notes, it's part of our deployment pipeline, and then our patch notes go to our QA team with like check marks so that they can confirm that they've tested each change and whatever. And so
we can just scan the patch notes like, you know, the next day or whatever, just see a
what was
tally.
tested, what's our
for-
coverage, you know.
Yeah, for how much
Yeah.
coverage you got.
And so like that's the kind of thing where, you know, we can get that into Ludokit at some point as just like something that you would just use just daily, just continuously throughout development, you know. There's tons of just cool stuff that we've developed or that we have that's kind of our own bespoke thing that's just kind of back, you know, behind our own proprietary systems and stuff that we'll be trying to migrate out into Ludokit over time. So very excited about it. But yeah, so I mean, it made the achievements so much easier to work on.
it's great.
Yeah, so let's talk about mobile strategy.
Yeah. What's the deal here?
So, for how many dudes, we always plan on selling it on Steam because that's what you do. That's what you do. You can just sell games on Steam and people buy them. It's a great system.
Yep.
Big fan of it, honestly. And so we announced for our July 30th launch for how many dudes that we're going to be doing a $14.99 price for the game on Steam. And we said our mobile plans were kind of still figuring it out. So on mobile, we essentially think of it as there's like two options for how many dudes. One would be just to go premium, so you just sell the game. And the other would be some kind of try before you buy.
Yeah, well, I think there's technically
Option.
3 options. There's that one, try before you buy, which is, again, it's just premium still, just you unlock it in game, right?
Yeah.
And the third one is to go all in somehow. on
Make
some
it very
kind of
mobily.
free-to-play.
Do some bullshit. You know, throw tons
Ads.
of IPs in there or something. You know, which we don't.
Yeah, we don't want to do.
We don't want to do. So
It's technically an option, but that was
technically
never,
an
like,
option,
on
not
the
for
table.
us,
Yeah.
because we'd rather just quit. Honestly,
Hard pass.
And then also just sucks to work on is those kinds of things. But
Yep.
yeah, so like, okay, so between the idea of a free game that you just have like one IAP inside of it to unlock the full, which you kind of think about like Steam has a demo and then a full version. So it's kind of like take those two parts of the game and just merge them together as one package. And instead of going back to the store to buy the full version of the game, you just buy the full version within
within the game. Yep.
And we were originally the idea was we'd sort of been leaning pretty heavily actually toward the idea of doing the free to try model.
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty
So
heavily as in like we had planned to. Like
we literally planned to.
Yeah.
We had Sure working on getting all the IAP, SDKs hooked into the game code and like starting to figure out how to do all that. 'Cause we haven't done it in a long time.
Yeah. So I want to underscore the reasons why we thought maybe that would be the best approach for this one, right? So one was what we'd already seen with the demo on Steam, which was like, oh, maybe this is the sort of game where like if people can just try it, and like it does actually clearly works well,
Hooks
right?
them.
And it's cool when you have like content creators and stuff who are telling their audience about a game, and then people could just go play it, right? Super cool. Why don't we recreate that on mobile? Maybe that'll help with word of mouth, that sort of thing. Two is that we've only launched premium games on mobile for a very long time, and the storefronts themselves have always felt like an uphill battle for premium games. So this is the big piece of the whole thing. This was like the main reason why. It was like, what if, we set up like pre-registrations on Google and Apple, and when people, get pinged about the game coming out, they can actually just go get it. So you can actually like leverage how that system works.
But even better is
for real.
It often just auto downloads.
Exactly. So like,
But it won't do that if it's a premium title.
Right.
Yeah. And so instead of like basically fighting uphill against everything about these stores, which is entirely designed around free to play, truthfully, right? Maybe.
So we thought.
Yeah. Maybe we could actually like roll with it and then sort of have the game over there doing its own thing.
Yeah. Stop fighting stop fighting nature, just appreciate that.
Yeah.
There's an environment here that we're putting our game into. It's very different from Steam. And if we're trying to be successful in an environment, we should tailor the parts of the game that, to make that happen. Right.
So the assumption is then that if a game is free and you're on mobile where things are expected to be free, then way more people are going to see your game. Way more people are going to try your game, and you really increase the size, the top of that funnel. So
if you have high confidence in your conversion ability from the top of that funnel, right, then that seems like the obvious move.
Right.
Make the top of the funnel really big.
So this is the theory.
Well, and again, we'd looked around, so we weren't just like making shit up. It was like, okay, we see there's games that are doing this, like Loop Hero does this, right? Where it's like, it literally says, manually, they're like, try before you buy. If the try before you buy game, you're going to do like a one-time in-app purchase inside the game. There's also been a push from Google Play itself to actually support a try before you buy system.
Yeah, it's a brand new feature, just like rolling out
brand new
right now, basically.
Crashlands 2, we basically opted into that thing so we could see if that was working. And so it looked like, okay, maybe if the platform's sake, there's a reason for this. They got all the data, so maybe. Even in cases where it wouldn't be supported, like on the App Store, if we rolled our own, then maybe that will end up kind of being the best thing for us. So what happened between now or between the decision point we had, which was I think like a month ago?
So as we're approaching this sort of like this decision point of like, all right, let's get into our dev and actually like start integrating all these things.
And we want to put the store pages up for mobile. So we
get the store pages up. We need to know all these things, right? So before we really commit to this, let's just take one last stroll through the data that we have and through the things that we know and look at the stores and try to figure out, is this really the right move? Because again, what you would expect is if a game is free, then the number of people playing it goes up dramatically because it's free.
Yep.
Right.
So you expect to see a lot more downloads. Right?
So you expect to see a lot more downloads. Yep. And so, and if you want to use kind of like a point of comparison, then you can say like, okay, well, let's look at other indie games that you buy on Steam, that you pay for on Steam, that have had a mobile version. Some of them have a paid mobile version and some of them have a free mobile version. So we can just use those as a point of comparison because you'd say like, okay, let's say a game, let's use 100,000 sales, 100,000 unit sales kind of as our like baseline, right? So let's say you got like, two different games on Steam. They both sold 100,000 copies and they both have a mobile version. One of them has a free mobile version, one has a paid mobile version. You would expect that the free one should have at least 100,000 players. It should at least have as many players as the Steam version because it's free.
And know that the conversion rate of a free player to a paid player
is
your
low.
best case scenario is a few percent.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like
you would expect it to be
way
tens of times higher for it to, line up.
Because if it has the same number of players as Steam, but then only 5% of those players go through and buy it, then it has 5% of the revenue or less, right? Even. Whereas like if you have a paid version of a game on Steam, then you would expect there to be a lot fewer players on for the mobile version. But what we ended up seeing was that actually the number of players on mobile relative to Steam doesn't seem to change much.
It wasn't. It just the effect.
It was like a 20 to 25% rate, as in like whatever the rough player count was on Steam. You'd have about a quarter of that many players on Google Play,
and we're estimating that based on review rates,
review stuff,
various things.
And it is like this is a real study.
Yeah,
right?
so we want people to call us out. Like if you have counterfactuals here, tell us.
Not just individual counterexamples, but like a pattern of right?
Because what we saw was
we also saw counterexamples too, right? But the broader pattern we saw was
and it can be hard to disentangle too because some games are in Google Play Pass and blah. So we tried to account for things as much as we could, but what we basically saw was that if a game is selling on Steam and then comes to mobile, whether it's a paid game or a free game doesn't seem to meaningfully affect how many people end up playing it on mobile.
And this is consistent with another thing that we knew / believed was true about the mobile stores, which is that, and also that we've been told years ago by platform
insiders,
which is that that over time, because they won't admit to why they turned out this way, right? But we know why. Over time, as the free to play bullshittery and like the design of the stores was because like the fact that still to this day your top charts are top grossing, right? Like and these just stupid businessy metrics,
meaningless categories where the games haven't changed in 5 years.
Yeah, and it's only about how much money has the game made. Right? So like that's still the case, right? And what people got trained to do over the years of this is that if you were a person who loved games, wanted to play them on mobile, you used to be excited, especially on the App Store because they had good editorial content. Right? You used to be excited to see every time the store turned over. Ooh, like what are the new games I didn't know about? Right,
this week
that the thing is highlighting. Right, that turned into a daily feature that's like fragmented across all the different versions of the App Store and stuff. Right, but also it's just the sheer volume of stuff in the store. It's true for apps as well, right? Made it so that people weren't able, like if somebody wanted to go and just be like, what's a cool new thing I could go find? And they wanted to just go browse, all you're seeing is trash that you don't want. It's the only thing
or stuff that you've already seen for the last 3 years. So
because that stuff is so static. And so basically people stopped browsing for things, which means that in theory, it doesn't matter if the store features it.
Yes.
And so if no one's looking, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So we saw this pattern. We're like, okay, because this pattern implies that, as Adam is saying, that there is no discoverability on mobile.
Yeah.
No to low, I guess.
Yeah. So if even if you make your game cost something versus free, if it doesn't change your downloads, then the stores aren't surfacing content. Period. Like the mobile stores just aren't surfacing content. So if that's true, we should see that in our own metrics, right?
Or if they are surfacing content, they're doing it to a largely disengaged audience. It doesn't matter that they're surfacing it.
Right? When I say they're not surfacing content, I mean they're not doing it in a way that translates into anything meaningful, right?
Yes.
And so like, okay, well, if true, we should be able to see that in some of our own metrics. Unfortunately, we recently did some stuff on Google Play where as Sam mentioned, Crashlands 2 is in the try before you buy program, which is their new sort of like free demo thing. We also recently integrated Google's new Sidekick overlay, which is supposed to come with additional algorithmic featuring. And we also, on Crashlands 2, did full screen integrations, or like large screen integrations, so that the game is more compatible with Chromebooks and tablets, and that also opens up a ton of new featuring avenues. And so we go back into our analytics and we look, and we do see that our impressions went up.
So they're showing it to more people,
but
and they went up in a substantial way, but not in a absolutely large way.
Our impressions doubled. And so impressions meaning like people seeing the game pop up somewhere, right? But there was literally no change in the number of people actually playing the game or purchasing.
No
the game.
change in downloads, no change in purchases.
And what I say, I mean, like it's a flat line. It's the flattest line I've ever seen in my life. Right. You know, like you could put your coffee mug on that line and it would stay
so we
upright.
doubled our visibility and 1x'd our actual rate of selling games. Right?
And one of the counters here is the idea that maybe we're in you're in like a downward slide kind of all the time, right? It's like maybe
what we were seeing is
there is an
absence
effect,
of a loss rather than a gain.
Right.
Well, no, because it's been
given
flat the whole time. I mean,
so it's been flat for a while. It was kind of flat before that, and then also given the scale of the difference in impressions, right? You would, frankly, it's not unreasonable to expect that the line would go up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like you're getting twice many impressions. Shouldn't it go up?
But it turns out when people go to a mobile store, even though something is present on their screen, they assume that it's shit because they don't know what it is, and it's a mobile game.
Right? And it isn't even necessarily that. It's probably just that in the same way that you're blind to ads. When you open up the store to go,
you literally
to do a search to go find a game.
I guess what
right?
it is. Yeah.
And you just don't even see, because I know that is my experience on Google Play. I literally when I open it for myself to go get a game, get an app, whatever, I literally don't see what's on the page.
Google Play might as well just, remember original Google, which was just a blank page with a search box?
Yeah, it might as well be.
That's what Google Play might as well be now, because that's
but although it is even worse, another thing we noticed while we were looking at this that none of us had noticed before is that, so I don't know if it's new or we just hadn't noticed because, again, we're just blind to the whole store, was that the number of sponsored placements of games on Google Play
is massive.
Is astronomical. Like literally, there's like their For You page and some other stuff, right? And it also note to devs especially that you'll see different stuff on a developer Google account, than you will on a personal account. So if you're trying to figure out like what the store is doing for a regular user, look at it on a personal account. But
and like literally people do it because also Google's always doing experiments where they change what individual people see. Stuff like
so
that.
Get your whole team together and be like, what do you see, right? Which is what we did, and we saw some different stuff. But what we consistently saw for personal accounts was that even if you search for something, like search for Crashlands 2, right, and you land on that search results page, the top entry is
Warhammer 40,000
sponsored content, right?
Which
then
is
there's
sponsored.
a tiny little widget that's like Crashlands 2, the thing you search for, and then another block of sponsored content, right? And if you look at like the For You page, it's just sponsored block, a little gap of something somewhat editorial, maybe.
Yeah, which again just trains people to not use the store anymore because
the only place where this has been inverted is actually the Play Pass thing. So if you subscribe to Play Pass, your first tab is a Play Pass tab, and it actually. To me, that's like the only one that
you can browse.
Because Sam is the one of us that has Play Pass right now. And so when me and Seth were looking at our stuff and be like, oh my God, this is way worse than I thought it was. And
I was like, what are you talking about? Cool. I see these two cool new games coming out.
Yeah. Which also say if you want to play games on mobile, get Play Pass.
Or arcade. They're all kind
of then you can browse and find stuff.
Yeah, you can browse in Play Pass because the things in Play Pass have had to go through a process where people at Google have had to check out the game and be like, yeah, this is good. We want this in Play Pass. It's curated. And also games in Play Pass can't have in-app purchases. They can't have ads. And
there aren't ads in your store experience while you're looking at them, or at least not as many.
Right. And so, like Apple has the same thing with Apple Arcade. It's like, if you really want really good stuff, you get Apple Arcade and then you just ignore the rest of the store. Right.
Well, Apple Arcade now lets in so few games that, and they've changed their strategy.
They might have throttled that a bit too much.
Yeah, that might be less true.
But yeah, so it's like, instead of solving the browsing problem, like we've talked about in the past, both stores kind of just did something else entirely and just left the main store to kind of languish.
And they both criminally have that fucking sponsored stuff. Cause I was thinking, years ago too, like you were talking to some some Apple people about our difficulties with the store and stuff. You know, like, well, you got this. You can do sponsored
Buy search ads.
and then when people look for other stuff, they'll find your game.
It's like,
and
you're already
like-
taking a third of our money. Why do we
Yep.
need to give you more money?
And
Money to show you
they're
stuff.
like, other people are going to be doing that against your game because they'll basically take your game as a search term. So when people search for it, they'll pull up theirs. So if you want to
there's a
prevent
big
that from
push for
happening,
defensive keyword search.
defensive
I'm like,
keyword search,
come
where you
on.
start paying for ad placement for the title of your own fucking game,
Yeah.
so that other people can't.
So
That's
if you
what
s-
mobile stores are like right now.
Yeah. So if you kind of zoom out, then I think it's like we don't know the status of the console stores because none of us are really that much of console gamers, honestly. But what this tells us, at least of in the triad of Steam, Google Play, and the App Store, is that Steam is the discovery mechanism for Google Play and iOS. Because if you look at the premium, the top premium games,
It's fascinating.
many of them, like a significant portion, probably at least half,
They're either
Yeah.
ancient premium games from like 20
from back when you could do that.
Geometry Dash,
Yeah.
basically, or Minecraft,
Yeah.
whatever.
They're either
or games that were successful on Steam that came to mobile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your Blotras, your Stardew,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
so it's games that developed a big following, and people were like, "Wow, this would be great as a mobile game. Let me see if it's on
They
mobile."
go
And
search
they go
for
search for it. They scroll past all the sponsored shit, and like, "Oh yeah, there it is." And then they download it, and they never look at anywhere else in the store, right? And so it's a funnel where it's like a game will always have fewer players on mobile than it has on Steam. And it does, and if it's a free game or a paid game, it doesn't matter because the people seeing it who are actually seeing it because they're looking at it, right?
Mhm.
As opposed to ignoring it, like Adam was talking about,
Mhm.
right? Because people search for it, they see it.
Yep.
Those are people who were already wanting it, and it doesn't matter whether
It's
it's free or paid because they
Well, and
wanted to get
importantly,
it.
if those people are coming from Steam, they're used to the idea that you pay for games, right? Which
Yeah.
means that
They just want to play
It's
the
not
same
a
game
turn
somewhere
off if
else.
it's a premium game, and it actually might even be a turn off if it's free.
well, exactly. 'Cause I know for me it is like if I
Yeah.
see a free to play game, even if it's an in-app unlock, if that's what it's described, I'm like, oh, it's so tedious, right? Is like how I respond to that. Because if I already know I want it, I don't want to be like, okay, I guess I'm playing a demo for a bit, and then I have to figure out how to unlock it or whatever.
yeah.
Or I have to be like, oh no, what did they do to make this a mobile version?
Yeah.
So I know for me personally, as a Steam gamer, I want to hit the App Store and just buy the thing I'm looking for. Like that's the experience that I
Mhm.
want, right?
So I
And
think
that seems
this
to be
is-
consistent with all the information we can see.
Yeah, and so I think that the general point there is like, okay, so our original theory was that if we go free to play, we'll be able to leverage the stores more, right? That was the theory, because they're built for it, and that's how you get actual discoverability to happen. And then as we looked, we were like, I don't really think that there's a super strong case that you could make that.
Turns out they're
Argument.
not built for anything.
Yeah,
And we were looking for evidence for it, right? And we could
100%.
find none.
Yeah,
We were
And it
ready
was
to be
like-
biased and couldn't
Yeah.
see any.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, when we're looking at these games, it's like, you got Clover Pit, stuff that's like recently done very well on Steam, that then did a mobile launch, right? Like all those top premium games, for the most part, they're not mobile games. They are games coming from Steam, the biggest ones typically, and then arriving with some success on mobile. And so we're like, oh, well, shit. Is it the case then that Steam is actually just the discoverability layer, not for itself, but like broadly?
For all
Broadly.
And
right?
there's actually
Yeah.
there's one extra wrinkle to all this that we kind of saw a little bit, but I've been kind of like thinking about the implications of it too. Because we talked in several episodes back in our Platforms Be Creepin' episode
Mhm.
about how Google is trying to push for BOPA, buy once, play anywhere. They got to have acronyms because tech company. Yeah. And so they have Google Play games for PC, which they actually have improved it quite a bit. It's still not
Not great.
super great, but you can download Google Play games for PC, and they have tons of games on there that are cross-play, essentially. You can play it on PC, and if you buy it there, then you can also play that same game on your Android device, right?
So stuff like Dredge, there's a bunch of these bigger ones that are,
Yeah.
they're in the
Now,
service.
Now, Dredge is an interesting case because Dredge became popular on Steam. It's in Google Play Pass,
Mhm.
and it is a headliner for the BOPA program, the Buy Once Play Anywhere program, and it's heavily featured on the front of Google Play Games for PC. So you open up Google Play Games for PC, you see Dredge.
Mhm.
But you'll notice something interesting about the price of Dredge on mobile,
Mhm.
which is it's the same as the Steam price.
They actually have price parity, which
It's
is they're one of the only
$24.99.
It's
Yeah.
25,
Yeah.
it's $25 on Steam, it's $25 on mobile. That never happens. Why would that be the case? And the reason is that Steam has some terms, which is that like if you're selling your game on Steam and then you're selling it on a competing PC storefront for cheaper, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And
They
you're
need to
going to
be-
hear about it.
The
Right?
base price,
which
has
is
to be the same.
bullshit, and they shouldn't be allowed to do that. We
Right.
could all
But they
agree on
basically say
that. But
like,
they
yeah,
do
because
have
they're
those.
like they don't want another store to be out competing them on price, and so-
Especially given that most of those stores just sell Steam keys. So honestly, it kind of makes sense, right?
Right.
It's like,
Yeah, for that part, I'm like, fine,
Yeah.
sure, I guess.
Right. So that means that like because Google Play Games for PC is
a PC storefront.
PC storefront, and it's because it's BOPA, because it's Buy Once Play Anywhere, because I don't think you can just sell a game on Google Play Games for PC. I think it can you? I think it has
think
to
so.
be.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think so, but all the games are.
All the games are
They all-
also
they
mobile.
came from
Yeah,
mobile.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that means to sell on Google Play, for your phone, because Dredge is on PC and through this Buy Once Play Anywhere thing, it has to sell at full price at the same price as Steam, which is way above the normal price for mobile,
Mhm.
right?
So
And-
who was that for?
So who is that for? And ultimately, it's just for Google Play Pass players.
Exactly. It's Play Pass.
Because if you have Play Pass, which is what is it, $5 or $6 a month or something like
It's
that,
$5. It's like nothing.
then you can play Dredge without having to buy it, right?
Well, and notably, because I remember when I played Dredge on PC, which was not long after it came out, but a little bit after it came out. I loved it. I was having so much fun with it. I was mostly playing it with a Steam Deck
It's very
on
good.
a TV. Excellent game, immaculate vibes, very good. So I was playing it, and just out of curiosity, because I was like, I could see this working on mobile, so I was just curious if they did it. Not because I wanted to play it, because it felt like it would be a worse experience, but I was just like, I wanted to see, And so I checked it out, found it on Google Play for $25, and I was instantly like,
No.
good on the one hand, good on you for sticking to your guns, right? Just being like, fuck it, we're going to do it. But also the download numbers were very small, right? Which is what I expected. So it was, on the one hand, I was like, great works, having principles about this, although that doesn't make sense because it's, you're basically pretending markets aren't a thing, right? But, cool. Good on you, right? But it's when I've downloaded it, I was like, so it's kind of a pointless exercise, it seemed like, right? And then when we looked at it recently, it has like 1 million downloads.
Because of Play
It's got a
Pass.
lot. Yeah.
Because of Play Pass. Yeah. Because we were looking at it, I was like, holy shit, like, did they
Yeah,
They sold this many
we've-
copies at $25. We're like, oh no, it's in Play Pass.
No,
So
yeah,
that's
because
where-
we've always thought
that's where
about,
that came from.
or I guess recently, we've thought about now mobile as a secondary market to Steam, where
Yes.
the discoverability exists on Steam, your players exist on Steam, then some subset of those players go searching for the game on mobile and end up picking it up. Well, if they have to pay,
Or some people see it on Steam and they're like, oh, I'd rather play this on mobile, and they go see if it's on there. But
Yeah.
either way.
and if it's a high priced indie game on Steam, like $25, which is like on the upper end of indies, and then the mobile version is also that, which at $25 on mobile, that's like $100 game on Steam in terms of like how people perceive it. It's like, that's just so high,
That's
right?
crazy.
Yeah, and so we typically price our mobile versions cheaper, so that
to
way
match the
it's
market,
like
and because what we want people to do is feel like they can buy it in both
just buy
places.
both. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so now that's kind of an interesting question then when it comes to our own. So where we landed then is like, okay, well, with how many dudes? If free doesn't matter, if discoverability doesn't matter, if the people buying it on mobile are the same people buying it on Steam,
Mhm.
then let's just go premium. Let's just sell it up front,
Mhm.
not do this IAP thing, not worry about any of this stuff, which is easier for us, honestly.
It's a lot easier to not to do that.
But then there's the question of price, because if we do want to do this, buy once, pay anywhere thing, go on the Google Play Games for PC, then we would have to do the same price as Steam. But
I think interesting. I
everything
think-
we've seen is like, I don't think it matters. I don't think
Doesn't
you
matter.
need to do that. You
I
don't
think you
go
need to
on-
do it.
yeah.
I think that there is a good question, which is like, would it, especially at the price point of like $15, right? Which is the target price for how many dudes on Steam. Would it really matter that much to do $15 versus $10?
I think it
Like,
would, just
really?
because it's like buying the same game on multiple platforms at full price, right? It's going to just feel worse than if you get like a bit of a discount for like the smaller pocket edition of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think right now we're aiming at probably $10 on mobile for how many dudes,
which is
and then
also
15 on Steam.
basically still to this day kind of the ceiling.
It's the upper end.
Because
for-
if it is because if you look through the top, again, the top premium games, which again is the games that have made the platforms the most money, so it's an insane chart. But if you look at that, because that also means that they made the most money, which means that their models are the most successful collectively, right? Yeah, but if you look through that list, like you will find some things that pop out above $10 here and there, right? But the vast majority of it is $9.99 or below. The vast majority of it,
and most of the ones were, again, they're the model we're talking about is like the Steam hits on mobile. Most of those are $10, right? Your Blatcho, Slay the Spire, that sort of thing, right? They do have that price disparity.
Yeah, and that's the other part too is like because we've been kind of using Blatcho as our proof of concept, I guess, for what we're doing with how many.
It's our North Star.
It's our North Star, right? Because that, like our demo approach was the same to say like, oh, should we uncapped demo so that people could play as much as possible? Like we took a lot of things from Blatcho, practically, right? And so Blatcho is not in Play Pass, presumably because they're in Apple Arcade and had a deal with them, which meant that would have prevented them from being other subscriptions. Yes. So they're not in Play Pass, which means that the numbers you're seeing for Blatcho on Google Play are
sales.
Straight sales, and they got 1 million+ downloads, right? Which means that if you
crazy,
which again, my bet is that that's all for Blatcho, word of mouth, originating from the Steam version.
If our theory is true, it would have to be the case that it's mostly driven from elsewhere.
Yeah,
right.
So, but that means that the scale to which you can drive is really large, actually, right?
Potentially,
and they're doing that $9.99 on Google Play and $15 on Steam. So a lot of it too was just like, okay, there's a model that clearly isn't getting in the way of like of the success of that game. So I think we could rationalize price parity. We could rationalize all kinds of stuff, and it's not clear that the price gap is the right move, but it, from everything we can see and the logic of how the stores work and all this kind of stuff, it seems like it's the move.
It's possible that there's something in here that we're missing. So, for example, one thing we know about, say, like YouTube Shorts. I'm getting there. I gotta take a circuitous path.
Take me on a journey.
So, like, YouTube owned by Google, Google Play owned by Google. They're both Google products. Google fucking loves algorithms. They love robots. They love trying to use all the data in the world to show different people different things and stuff like that, right? And we saw it with our YouTube Shorts experiments where, with YouTube Shorts, 1,000 people see your video, and then it stops for a while. And then they crunch the numbers to figure out, like, was that good? Should we show it to some more people? After a while, a bunch more people see it. And then that cycle keeps going depending on the level of engagement. How much are people watching this video, right? It's possible that something like that is also happening on Google Play with games. So as an interesting example is, somebody ripped off How Many Dudes and made a game called How Many Guys. They put it on Google Play. And I looked at it. Somebody pointed it out to us, and I looked at it, and within the first few days, it had 1,000 downloads. I was like, oh.
And as a free-to-play game, right?
Yeah, as a free game, yeah. It has 1,000 downloads. I'm like, okay. And then I look at the next day, then it suddenly has 5,000 downloads. I'm like, oh my God, this thing's actually like picking up some traction. And then, I just kind of ignored it for a while. And I checked it the next week, and it still had 5,000 downloads.
Yeah. Yeah, they hit the limit of what just can happen.
Right. Which implies, like, maybe if you have a free game, there's some kind of algorithmic thing going on.
Oh, definitely. But I think this is also the interesting note with the whole try before you buy problem, which is like you as a free game acting like a premium game by saying, yeah, you could download for free, and then you could buy one thing only.
Yeah. Your lifetime user value is always going to be lower. Games with infinite
exactly, which means you're going to be basically competing algorithmically in that pool where you got games that are like $40-$50 like lifetime value that the algorithm's got to choose. Like, am I going to show them this, or am I going to show them this? How many dudes versus at max Google can earn like $3 or whatever. Yeah, whatever else.
Or Google would earn $3. Yeah,
Google's cut. Yeah, and I think so. It's like, oh, okay, maybe that actually ends up making this sort of like more on the wrong side of how all the algorithms. And
It's
stuff
like
work.
it's like the condo of gaming. It's like the worst of both worlds. Like, you're kind of in an apartment, but kind of in a house, but you don't own the walls, and you also don't have a yard. And
there's an HOA. It's just like
there is still an
like,
HOA for some reason, and it's just like you kind of own it, but it's in somebody else's building, and what the fuck is happening? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just kind of you're in this weird no man's land where nothing makes sense. So,
and I do want to say there's some interesting other approaches here, which like we saw with I can't remember exactly. There's a couple different groups, like PlayStack, I think is one. And there's a few other publishers who publish stuff like Halls of Torment and Brotato and stuff like that. Who have
PlayStack did
they did Blatro. But there's a couple of them. They did a couple other games too. So there's a couple of games where what they do is they actually put up two different versions of the same game. So it'll be Brotato free, right? And then like Brotato. Brotato is just the premium, the same stuff you get on Steam, maybe for some price difference, right? But the exact same game. And then the free one actually has hooks in it it does like ads, right? You can like watch an ad before a run or something to earn an extra life.
Mechanics.
Yeah, they basically bake some of those mechanics in there. I don't necessarily think that's not like a viable strategy. That probably is a viable strategy, right? Because then you could essentially have the free one.
We looked at the numbers on those ones too, and we were surprised to see that those games that had that free sort of paired option, because there's another one too, I can't remember what it was, but another big one that
there's a bunch of them, yeah.
And they had actually the ones that I remember anyway had much smaller numbers of downloads than the paid real, quote unquote real one, right?
Yeah.
But there may have been some cases where that was flipped. But the one
you're saying the paid one had less?
No, the paid one had more. As in like
more.
The free one, which again is a conversion rate problem, right?
Because again, if you're coming from Steam and you're like, okay, I like Brotato, I bought Brotato on Steam, it's on mobile,
right.
and I'm presented with two options. One, just pay a little bit of money up front and just get to play Brotato, or be harassed forever while you're playing it by IAPs and ads. It's like, obviously I'm going to take the premium.
Yeah. So again, I do underscore, this is not like, we didn't like dig up sensor tower data. This is not like a freaking intense.
This is vibes data.
Math thing. Yeah. This was just like the initial.
No, we used our intuition as well as we looked at it. We looked at all this stuff.
Yeah, which has been known to be completely wrong sometimes. So,
somebody tell us we're wrong.
Data has to be interpreted, right?
Yeah. Somebody tell us we're wrong and tell us why. Because if we're right, then that actually
it simplifies a lot of things. Frankly, strategically,
it simplifies things, but also it's a huge problem because what it means is that Steam is just holding up
the whole industry,
the whole fucking industry, right?
Yeah.
Like
which, honestly,
at least as far as like these three stores are concerned, where like if something happens that makes it so that it's much harder to sell your games on Steam, I don't know what. Maybe Gabe sails off on his yacht and retires. Some
Bezos buys Steam.
Some Bezos style CEO comes in and is like, okay, it's time to really squeeze this platform. And now suddenly you gotta like, they got all kinds of sponsored placements you gotta pay for, and you gotta have money to make money on Steam, and like all this other crap. Essentially, if they turn it into what the other stores already are, right? Then people will stop browsing on Steam, just like they stopped browsing elsewhere. And then you can no longer build an audience, and then the indie movement dies. Like Steam is allowing the indie games movement to exist.
It's the reason it exists.
So there's a single point of failure in the games industry right now, and you don't know when that shoe's going to drop.
Yeah, I will say that is the case. I do think though that strategically it simplifies things, if true, because what it says,
it hasn't collapsed.
Yeah, what it says to me is that even for us, like for our next game, whatever else, if the goal is only first and foremost to do well on Steam, only after you have done well on Steam should you even give the remotest fuck. Everything's a byproduct. So like in our case, like we are simultaneously launching sim shipping, right? How many dudes on Steam and Android and iOS? Now, with what we know now for the next game, I wouldn't necessarily do that, right? I probably wouldn't want to do that because it takes time to get everything working on mobile. You got all sorts of other stuff, right? It adds more of these review processes and all this other work and stuff like that. Do not bother until it has been proven on Steam, because until you have that, then you won't be able to leverage stuff out of mobile.
Because
Really
every
is.
other platform is actually going to just be proportionally successful relative to Steam. They're all going to be some subset of what Steam did.
Yes.
So
why spend all the time and money? you
Yeah,
know?
and I think the argument is always the same, which is it can go either way. Right? To me, it's always, if you don't know if a thing will be successful, and all this success hinges on Steam, right?
Mhm.
Then you're limited in some way by budget, tolerable risk, because all these things cost money, right? Localization
Mhm.
costs money,
Mhm.
multiple platform support costs money, right? Money and time. And so if you're limited in all those things, then the thing you really need to find out as quickly as possible is this game viable on Steam, right?
Yes.
Because if it's not, throwing all that extra
if
money
it's not
at
viable
it
on
would have been a
Steam,
waste.
it's probably not
There's-
viable anywhere.
But yeah, but the other, like, at least for me, like, my still unchanged belief is that when it comes to a launch, what matters more than anything is that launch is where all of the activity and discovery and all that kind of stuff happens in the broader player base, right? And so if a player hears about your game, they should be able to get it. And that means it's in their language and it's on the platform that they're looking at, right? And if they can't, there's an attrition right there for the lifetime value of the game, right? And so so basically the thing that you're balancing is that from an overall ceiling of success standpoint, having all your ducks in a row at launch makes the most sense.
Big counter, which is that most of the platforms we're talking about, so Google and iOS, have other programs in place that oftentimes won't allow you to participate until
At launch.
like either at launch or until you've proven yourself in some way, right? So like
there's
Balatro being an Apple
nuances here.
Arcade, if Balatro had just launched as a paid game day one on iOS, there's a perfectly reasonable chance that there's the internal benchmarks that are associated with being able to then like bring a Balatro Plus to like Apple Arcade, that they would not have actually been meeting those benchmarks because it would be like a premium game on iOS or whatever, right?
Because also, it took some time for it to kind of build up steam. On big
Exactly. Exactly. And so the counterpoint to me is that you may also be, like in our case, by doing it all at once, you may very well be providing yourself the least leverage possible to actually get the biggest response overall.
If those other things are feasible, right?
Yeah, I'd say there's
arguments outside your control.
There are reasonable arguments in both directions. So you can't confidently say.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. It's not cleanly just.
It's not clean, but that's why it's annoying. You know what I mean?
But they all have one thing in
is,
common,
right?
which is Steam. Like
correct.
You need to do well on Steam. You need to do well on Steam as an indie developer. If you don't, everything else is not feasible. Right. So that's
seems to be the state of the games industry right now.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what
and
I'm
again,
thinking.
Get into comments on the YouTube version on the YouTube video for this episode.
Yeah, is this dumb? Are we just like off
comments?
fucking rocker?
Tell us how dumb we are, or
please tell me there's another way.
Tell us when was the last time you opened up Google Play or the App Store and was like, I'm gonna browse for games, and like really did it and had a good experience and found a game that you liked. Maybe it's actually happens all the time. I don't know.
I would love to be wrong,
but yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. So, anyways, how many dudes? $9.99 on mobile. That's our plan.
Yep.
So, yeah, and that's all we have for this week. So we'd like to thank our producers Fat Bard and Sampa Acosta for putting the podcast together, and thanks to our community moderators who keep our Discord running. To get more involved in the Butterscotch community, just go to podcast.bscotch.net, where we have links to the Discord, a way for you to donate to support the podcast, and links to the archives. And if you haven't yet, head on over to Steam, pick up How Many Dudes demo, play it, have fun, wish list it, and then we'll see you on the launch on July 30th. We appreciate it. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.